Hello, all. Welcome to Murder at the Round Table. My name is Raf, and I am joined today by my lovely co-host Ipsha.
Hello.
Yeah. So first, how we doing? How goes life?
I just can't get rid of a cold.
Yeah.
And I blame a lot of it on the weather, although
Hmm.
Mother Nature, there was a meme on this, or kind of like a caption thing that said, like, Mother Nature is starting to show a little bit of leg. She's starting to warm up a little bit, but it's not doing great for me. It's like a mix of like allergies, but I could also have like a cold lingering. I just don't know which way it's leaning towards. So,
Yeah, that was gonna be my follow-up, like if it's allergies.
yeah, I don't know what's going on with me, but I might sound a little bit odd, and you'll probably hear a lot of sniffling, depending how much our editor wants to edit out my sniffles. But
Yeah,
I'm probably going to be on mute for a lot of the times Raph is talking. So,
and there'll be a lot of talking. Pre-segment wise, I didn't really have much other than a question. Would you ever hitchhike or go backpacking?
no, no, never.
Hmm.
I don't know too much about backpacking. I've heard people say they've gone backpacking or heard cases, but I don't know. It doesn't sound like something I'd enjoy. So,
Knowing your personality, yeah, yeah, I'd agree.
yeah, I don't think I would. But yeah, I don't know too much about backpacking, to be honest. So there's that.
Okay, I used to be on the fence,
Hmm.
and then I kind of went down this rabbit hole here
Hmm.
that we're going to talk about today, and then I was like, you know what, I'm okay not doing it.
Yeah.
I'm all right with that. Like, unless it's like super extenuating circumstances, like I am running from a kidnapper or something, and I just need to get into a vehicle. Sure, I'll flag someone down, and chances are that person will be normal-ish enough to pick me up and take me where I need to go. But
Hopefully.
hopefully, yeah. You imagine you're running away from a kidnapper and then you just run into another one. Damn.
I mean, that's what like night people have nightmares about this where like
Hmm.
they're running from something and they can't run and they're like just on the spot running or something like that. But I'm sure like that's happened though, where you're trying to run away from someone and you just run into a someone
Yeah,
else that's just as dangerous or
yeah.
corrupted,
All right, so let's get started. So, I was looking into international crimes,
right?
and I was like, you know what, let's leave the northern North American space and go see what goes on everywhere else. And so I came across someone who honestly could only be described as a monster
Okay.
and one that's protected by the devil, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
He also presents to us kind of a cautionary tale on hitchhiking
Yeah.
slash backpacking. So it's not something like not to do, but rather just things to be aware of. I do consider like this case study to kind of be the definition of like why I don't hitchhike anyways, and probably by the time I finish, this will probably add an extra reason for you not to as well.
That's fair.
Yeah, so to start off, have you ever heard of the backpacker murderers? Or murders, sorry.
No, I actually have not. No.
No? Okay.
You're about to tell me.
Yeah, you're in for a treat. Well, okay, no, let me not say that. That makes it sound like it was a good thing. You're in for a juicy story.
It's a treat in terms of what we present on this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. There we
Yeah.
go. Nobody come after me, please. Don't sue me. Anyways, so the backpacker murders were a series of serial killings that occurred in New South Wales, Australia.
Hmm.
It was between 1989 and 1993, and they were committed by Ivan Milat, now known as the backpacker killer or the backpacker murderer.
Okay.
The victims aged 19 to 22, included three German and two British individuals, in addition to two Australians from Melbourne, whose bodies were found like partially buried in the Belanglo State Forest. So there's some images I'd put into our little exhibits chat that you can take a look at. It has all the victims there. It has the map and stuff. For anyone who's listening in, I was going to say they can see the same thing on Insta if they're trying to like follow this and trying to figure out, oh, where is this place and all that. So just dissect this story. We'll run through a timeline of the victim discoveries, followed by discussing a little bit about the victims, the investigation, trial, and the conclusion, as well as the early life of the murderer, Ivan, who never publicly confessed.
Love that. Love when they do that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Trigger warning for today is violence, kidnapping, sexual assault, and murder. So just as a heads up, that's what we're going to be talking about. So let's talk about the discoveries to start off.
Mm-hmm.
So we begin on September 19th, 1992. We have two runners that are passing through the Belanglo forest and they find a concealed corpse.
Oh, wow.
A second body is found the next morning, just 30 meters away, like once they get cops in the area.
Mm-hmm.
The victims were identified as Joanne Walters and Caroline Clark. So Caroline was indicated to have been shot 10 times in the head.
Oh my God.
So the way that her arms were placed it and like her body position, police believe that she'd been used as target practice. And for Joanne, so she was stabbed 15 times, four in the chest, one in the neck, nine in the back, which would have paralyzed her.
Mm-hmm.
And then the following year, we have October 1993. A local man found bones while searching for firewood, leading to the discovery of two more bodies, now identified as James Gibson and Deborah Everest. So James had 8 stab wounds and severe spinal injury, and Deborah was savagely beaten with a fractured skull and had one stab wound.
Sorry, that was one stab wound you said?
One stab wound, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The little note I'll add here for James was that his camera was actually found near Galston Gorge, so it's about
Okay.
120 kilometers north of the Belanglo Forest back in December 31st, 1989. And then March 13th, 1990, we find Gibson's backpack near the road at the same gorge.
Joanne's bodies was found in 92,
Mhm.
and then the Gibsons and Everett's body were found in 89.
No, they were found in 93.
93, okay. And
Yeah,
the camera was found when?
was found in 89. Sorry, in 80, in 89, in 89. Yeah,
99, okay. Sorry, I heard 89. But they were found in.
93. Yeah. So his camera and his backpack were found respectively in 89 and in 1990, but his actual body wasn't found until 1993.
Okay. So, okay, I'm sure you're gonna. Yeah, I'm not gonna go too far ahead, but continue.
And then we move forward in the same year to November 1st, 1993,
Mm-hmm.
where police find a skeleton identified as Simone Schmidl,
Mm-hmm.
who had at least 8 stab wounds, two that severed the spine.
Yeah.
Her parents actually found out about what happened to her. Like they'd known for a while, like she'd been missing, but they found out about her via radio.
Mm-hmm.
And so they tried to get the German police to confirm, and they didn't get a response back till about 2 weeks after her bones had already been brought back to Germany and she was buried. Like once they'd done all that, that's when the German police are like, "Oh yeah, yeah, it's confirmed. That was her." I was pretty shook with that.
That's fair. I'm just so I was confused about the dates because I
Mm.
was looking at the map that you have sent,
Yep.
and it's giving me the years that they disappeared.
Yeah,
So hang on, let me just find the first name. So Joanne Walters found September and disappeared March 1992.
yeah.
So I'm assuming when it says disappeared, it's like when they were reported missing as well. And then the years that you mentioned,
That's when the bodies were found. Yeah.
that's when the bodies were found. Okay.
So I'm kind of in a way working backwards
Mm-hmm.
from, and then we'll end up jumping ahead. So this is just the discovery of the bodies that kicks
Okay.
everything off.
Sure, sure, sure.
Yep.
Sorry. I was like, this doesn't make
No,
sense. What is going on?
no, it's all good. It's all good. Okay, and then a few days later, still no, so now November 4th, 1993, we have the bodies of Anya Hapshide and Gabor Noguebawa
Mm-hmm.
are both found in shallow graves, 50 meters apart.
Okay.
And there was some evidence that they hadn't entirely died instantly from their injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Anya was, well, except actually for Anya in this case, Anya was decapitated,
Mm.
but her skull was never found. And Gabor was shot 6 times in the head. So the one thing to put out there is that for all of these victims, their deaths were so different,
Yeah.
similar in the savagery, and also similar in terms of, for the most part, being stabbed.
Yeah.
And in the back, the assumption was to like sever the spine to like cause paralysis. But otherwise, when police were slowly uncovering um, these bodies, they were all being investigated separately, and the idea was that there were multiple killers here.
It would make sense because oftentimes we hear when you have a killer in the same area, they're often the patterns of killings are similar. So you had like the first
Hmm.
few people who were shot, and it seemed like they were being used as a target practice. All the rest would have been similar, considering it's somewhat around the same area, but yeah, they are very different. It was kind of like if there's multiple people,
Yeah.
some of them might have been like trying to like do like almost like a experiment to see like
Okay. That
yeah.
we'll touch on that one again because
Okay.
I was thinking about that too.
Yeah, with like the whole paralysis thing, it felt like it was almost trying to like experiment on the victims to see.
Like to action kind of what maybe they had read about before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ivan was pretty well versed, I would say, in terms of the hunting side of things. At least from what I saw, he grew up in a family, and we'll talk about this a bit more, with a very large interest in like guns and knives and that whole line.
Okay.
So I'm gonna jump in and just talk a bit more about the victims. So starting with Deborah and James.
Mm-hmm.
So they were both Australian locals, both 19. This
Yeah.
was Deborah's first time hitchhiking. They were both like last seen December 30th, 1989, where they
Mm-hmm.
left Melbourne for Sydney, planning to hitchhike to Albury after visiting Confest. They were last seen like heading for the festival.
Mm-hmm.
James is said to have just been kind of like a chill, kind of vibey kind of guy, more into the hippie element
Right.
at the time. And then Deborah, very open person,
Mm-hmm.
winning smile. One of the last things that she had said to her mother was that she was gonna just keep in touch regularly.
Yeah.
This was her first time doing this, and that they were gonna hear back from her within like 3 days, which did not happen. So now you can see with the dates, like last seen like December 1989, but their bodies are found
Mm-hmm.
1993. So yeah, that for the entire time they'd been just assumed as missing, and obviously the worst, and then the confirmation once those bodies were found. So then we have Simone Schmidt. So she was German, 20 years old, described as a young, adventurous girl whose Family and friends called her Simi.
Mm-hmm.
Very confident, very seasoned traveler. Like she'd done this before. She was last seen January 20th, 1991. So she had set off to hitchhike from Sydney. She told acquaintances that she was off to Melbourne to meet her mother, who was flying in from Germany to join her for a camping holiday.
Hmm.
Last seen at a train station preparing to leave for Western Sydney, where she was attempting to hitchhike.
How old is Simone? Do you know?
Yeah, 20.
20. Sorry, I think I missed that part.
Oh no, all good. So next we have Gabor Neugebauer and Anja Habscheid,
Mm-hmm.
both German backpackers. Gabor was 21, Anja was 20. The couple was traveling together with plans to eventually to head to Bali and Indonesia.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, they were supposed to fly back to Germany in January 23rd,
Mm-hmm.
1992. They were last seen December 26th, 1991, where they left the backpackers inn at King's Cross, Sydney, to hitchhike to Adelaide and then to Darwin, where they were going to take that plane going to Bali.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, we have Joanne Walters and Caroline Clark. So both of them were British citizens. Joanne was 22. Caroline was 21. They planned to leave Australia and head to China
Mm-hmm.
on a trip together. They met in Australia a few months prior, actually. They were last seen April 18th, 1992,
Okay.
where they left King's Cross to hitchhike together around Australia. They were headed for Victoria to pick fruit and
Mm-hmm.
made it to the Bully Pass near Wollongong, I believe that's how that's said, where they reportedly asked for directions to the Hume Highway.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little bit on the victims. I wish there was more that had come across, but just more about who they were, what they wanted in their lives and such. And I'm hoping that
Yep.
those details are provided in. There's a few like docu-series present that covers this case. I started watching one of them, haven't finished yet, so I'm hoping maybe there's a bit more in there about them.
Yeah.
So now jumping forward in time to the investigation. So this is after the bodies have been found.
Mm-hmm.
So an examination of the remains revealed evidence indicating that some of the victims had suffered from torture. In response to the situation, the New South Wales Police established Task Force Air on October 14th, 1993, and it was made up of like 20 detectives, analysts as well. November 5th, 1993, the New South Wales government increased the reward for information regarding the killings to 500,000 Australian dollars.
I think it's dollars, yeah. Australian dollars. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's Australian dollars, yeah. And during that time, they also brought in a forensic psychiatrist to develop like a killer profile based on everything that they knew about the victims,
Right.
like the state of their bodies. So, following the development of that profile, they encountered a significant volume of data from various sources. The profile, part of this was because the profile indicated just a man who's full of rage, who's likely in their 30s, lived near Belangolo Forest, likely has good knowledge of the woods, and likely drives a four-wheel vehicle. So there's only so much you can kind of get from that. So they just had to keep looking and also waiting for tips as well.
So at this point, did they narrow down that it was just one person, or were they like still looking for? They still had the idea that there's a possibility that there could be one more than one person behind the killing.
At this point, because there were similarities between the crime scenes, which I'll jump into in a bit. It was like, okay, this is likely one person. Um, yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
like the murders shared like similarities,
Oh, okay, I
including
see.
like bodies that were dumped in remote bushland. They were covered with sticks and ferns, You had multiple stab wounds to the torso, like multiple victims had those same stab wounds, signs of sexual assault. There was evidence of restraint and also time
Mm-hmm.
spent with the victims based on campsites that were nearby. So, like, someone had actually set up camp
Okay.
there and was there with the victims during and after the murders, and matching .22 bullets and shell casings that also linked those crime scenes.
I see. Yeah.
The note to this was that the gun that was coming from a Ruger .22 was a gun
Mm-hmm.
not owned by most people in Australia.
Okay.
So that really helped to narrow down,
Mm-hmm.
your list of suspects. Take that in addition to
Mm-hmm.
the killer profile. And then one other thing that they used was link analysis technology to reduce the list of suspects from their beginning list of like
Mm-hmm.
230 down to 32 individuals. Have you ever heard of link analysis before?
No, I was about to say, like, you should probably explain.
Yeah, I had not heard about it either. It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Almost seems like neural network related, like in the same realm. But anyways,
Mm-hmm.
it's a technique to make connections and find commonalities that could be relevant. That's what that technology focuses on, and then gives you a result from that. So in this case, they applied the technology to Road and Traffic Authority vehicle records.
Mm-hmm.
They applied it to gym memberships, gun licensing, and then internal police records to find, okay, who was matching
Mm-hmm.
all of those factors, I guess. Interesting thing here, Ivan Milat was working for the Roads and Traffic Authority at this time.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Some additional notes to this as well is there was a woman who alerted police about Ivan and his like love for firearms and was kind of questioning
Mm-hmm.
the licensing and registration of said firearms. So that put a little bit of extra attention on him.
Yeah.
And then there was a senior constable who connected multiple sexual assaults along Hume Highway to Ivan Milat. So these were sexual assaults not related to this case,
Okay.
but ones that he'd already been involved with in the area. So then
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, well, there we go. We have a very probable suspect.
He was in the area when those sexual assaults occurred.
Well, he was accused of some of them.
Okay.
Yeah, in the same area.
And sorry, you said he worked for
Yeah.
traffic
It
and what?
was the Traffic and Roads and Traffic Authority, yeah.
I find this interesting because
Hmm.
it sucks for the victim because if you think about it, he probably understands like how much traffic of
Yeah.
locals versus non-locals that occurs in this area, and I think he used that to his advantage. Which a lot of like, if you go into a lot of like famous serial killers and cases, you'll find that oftentimes that the suspect is could potentially be like a cop because given the circumstances and the natures where the
Hmm.
bodies are found, such as the smiley face killer or a happy face killer. They're two different cases, but yeah, they were finding bodies and they're like only the killer would know
Yeah.
where their search is going on and where the searches are not going on. And also the police. So there could have been potential that is a police officer, or in this case, yeah, highway traffic and roads authority, which makes so much sense.
Yeah, yeah, it does. Someone who knows that area well and also knows that a lot of people like to hitchhike
Yeah.
and like to camp there and backpack there. So and a lot of those people are young too. So you have a lot of what's the right word? Options, I guess.
Yeah. So he was accused of sexual assault and he was able to keep his job.
Yeah, yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, actually, I'll just jump down to another section here because we are going to talk about his early life,
Hmm.
and I'm pretty sure all of this happened before he got his job.
Oh.
with the Roads and Traffic Authority. Yeah,
Oh,
like those cases happened prior to.
he lives, I'm assuming, in the area, so he knows this forest. Okay, that also makes sense.
Yeah. So, like we kind of mentioned, there was speculation that the crimes might not have been sorry, at this point, because all the crime scenes were pretty similar now in terms of what was going on with the victims, how everybody was buried, and kind of the very gruesome nature of the killings. Speculation of multiple killers now changed into either
Yeah.
one or killers that were working in tandem because these were mostly couples.
Okay.
So in the same year, so November 13th, 1993, we get like
Mm-hmm.
a significant turn of events here. Um, where a guy from Britain is hearing about what's going on in Australia. His name is Paul Onions.
Onions.
Onions, yeah. So he's a 24-year-old resident. So he contacts the police and he's like, hey, I got somebody you guys should probably look at. And he
Oh.
tells them about something that happened to him 3 years prior. So 3 years prior to that, January 25th, 1990,
Right.
he was backpacking in Australia, and while hitchhiking south from Liverpool Station towards Mildura, he accepted a ride from a man who introduced himself as Bill. And south of, what is it, Mittagong? Yeah, south of Mittagong, less than 1 kilometer from the Belangolo forest,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, Bill slows down the car. The whole time he'd been asking him all these questions, trying to figure out who he is and all of that. He slows down and is like, "Oh, just give me one second." He hops out of the car and then he pulls out a gun, like a revolver on him. And it was supposed to be a sort of robbery. At least that's what Paul was thinking at
Yeah.
first. Then Bill, air quotations on Bill, goes for the rope. So now, man has his gun, he has a rope, and Paul's like, nope, we're not doing this. So he jumps out of the car and he starts booking it down the highway. At the same time, Bill, who's Ivan, is shooting at him.
Oh my god.
And there's a few cars that pass by seeing them, and nobody stops.
Oh.
And he's running, he's running. They get to a point where Bill catches up with them. They start wrestling, and then he manages to get away from that. And he keeps running. He does end up flagging down a passing driver,
Mm-hmm.
a Joanne Berry, who was coming from Canberra.
Mm-hmm.
Together, she get lets him get into the car, and then they speed off to the authorities. So they speed off specifically to Bowral,
Mm-hmm.
where they go to the cops. They report the assailant. They report his vehicle. They give the registration number,
Yeah.
like all the deets on this guy,
But no
and
trace.
and no cigar. Yeah, so the police just gave him a $10 Australian. So yeah, like $10, 10 Australian dollars.
Yeah.
Should not be that hard, but they give it to him so that he can use it to get back to the British High Commission in Sydney.
Yeah.
And that report remains untouched. It gets put into a drawer and closed, never done with again. No follow up, no nothing.
Of course it does. Of
So
course.
fast forward now, November 13th, 1993, Paul hears about what's happening in Australia. He calls up the local authorities and he's like, hey, have you checked the report that I submitted 3 years ago? Because that was the same area that dude, tried to do something similar to me.
And they're like, no.
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much.
We didn't even know it existed.
Yeah. I was just like, how? And this is what I mean when I started this whole thing by saying that this guy is like protected by the devil,
Mm-hmm.
because there are a few instances of this where something just happens where he could have been caught, but then some person was being disregardful or some weird circumstance, and then poof,
Mm-hmm.
gone.
Yeah, it happens so much. Like, this is why, like, I guess majority of the people hate police because of the disregard of a complaint because of whatever reason. It's like, no, dude, like, check it out. Because had they taken this complaint seriously, or maybe at the moment they can have been like, okay, let's take a look and maybe put it aside. But somebody took a look at it, they know the information. So, I mean, if anything, yeah, so like half of these people could have been, or I guess not, but
No, yeah, not half, but at
some.
most of the victims, there's a
Mm-hmm.
chance that what happened to them would not
That
have
they could
happened.
have been, it would have not never had happened. And yeah, it's crazy. Like, if had they investigated, I'm sure they could have found some things early on. But I mean, his last name is Onion. Maybe that's the problem. Onions. Sorry.
Wow, I guess. Because if you look at like
Hmm.
Deborah and James went missing
Yeah.
December 30th, 1989, right? Um, and pretty much killed very soon after that.
Hmm.
And then within a month, he goes after this guy.
Yeah.
But luckily, this person escaped. Now, if they had taken it seriously back then, maybe they could have found the bodies at that time.
Of Deborah. Yeah.
Deborah and
And
James. Yeah.
yeah. So like yeah, and then the rest of them could have either not happened or there could have been some sort of police patrol in the area to avoid what happened. Ivan, he seems young when these things were happening. Is that correct? Like he was on the younger side?
He's yeah, let me see. He's in his late 30s at this point.
Because it sounds like if he's running after like Paul Onions, who at this time was 20,
He's
21, 20.
he would have been
Yeah,
21.
it seems like he
Yeah.
was quite fit. I don't know, like, I'm assuming Paul was fit because he's young, he's backpacking, so he must have some sort of stamina and energy.
Hmm.
And given that Paul was able to, like, catch up to him running and then wrestling, seems like he was quite fit.
Oh yeah, he was. If you've seen like one of the photos I sent, you
Mm
can see one where Mans was sufficiently jacked. And I just did the some quick maths. He was like 46, give or take.
hmm. 46, yeah.
So that's pretty good for that. All right, so then we move forward to February 26th, 1994. So you have the connections to the sexual assaults, you have the connections to the guns or the gun type, and you have somebody in the area. All of a sudden, we're now watching Ivan.
Mm
Yeah, February 26th, 1994, you have police surveillance on the Milat house. That's when they actually start doing that, and then they're doing that for a few months.
hmm. Mm
April
hmm.
13th, 1994, the detectives rediscovered the note regarding Onion's call. So after they heard about it from Paul, they're like, okay, we need to find this thing. So they go hunting, they find it.
Mm hmm.
His statement was sustained by Barry, the lady who had picked him up, and the girlfriend of a man who had worked with Milat. May 5th, 1994, they fly Paul Onions down to Australia, and he positively identifies Milat as the man who had picked him up and had attempted to shoot him.
Right.
So now they got everything. They're like, okay,
Mm hmm.
we have enough at least, but specifically because of Paul, because that was like an actual, documented crime that he had not been convicted of yet, or at least had not been like tried for yet. Yeah.
Good for him though. Like I think that's great cuz like a lot of people, especially because he doesn't live in Australia, a lot of people would have just discarded that, being like, "Oh yeah, somebody else could help."
Yeah. Or been like, actually, no, there's no way that it's the same
It's
person,
the same
or I don't
person.
want to get involved. I don't want
Yeah.
to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, but good for him because he lives in a different country. There's also that factor like, oh, this would take so much time. I'd have to like take time off of work or whatever I'm doing, school. So
Hmm.
yeah, good on him for doing that. And I think you just said this like this case came to light because he called in to Australian authority, I guess.
Well, the case itself had a lot of notoriety by this point, but he gave them ammunition, enough to actually to act.
Yes,
Um,
100%.
so now we come to May 22nd, 1994. So this is when Milat is arrested at his house on robbery and weapons charges related to the Onions attack. And this is the ammunition he gave them. He gave them a way to arrest him. So they come to his house, arrest him for the robbery and weapons charges related to the Onions attack. After 50 or so police officers have surrounded the house and that they go in, but what this allowed is for them to search the residence, and that revealed more weapons and also items belonging to several of the victims. Mans was keeping trophies. Not only was he keeping trophies, he had a .22 caliber Anschutz model 144-142 rifle, which honestly I don't know what that means. I'm just going to put that out there.
We don't know about guns.
But we don't know about guns. But he did have parts of a .22 caliber Ruger 1022 rifle. Now that same gun is the one that they were finding the bullets and casings for at some of the crime scenes.
Okay, there you go.
They also searched homes that were belonging to Milat's mother and 5 of his brothers and found even more items belonging to the victims. So now it's like, okay, we got him pretty much. So they take him to court the same month. So actually, really the next day, May 23rd, 1994, Milat appears in court, but he does not enter a plea. Then on the 31st, now because of that additional evidence they found, he is additionally charged with 7 backpacker murders.
Wonderful.
And those are of the 7 that we've discussed. Yeah. So June 28th, the same year, Milat dismissed his family's lawyer and sought legal aid. And that was because his lawyer, John Marsden, was recommending he take the guilty plea. Now, between October 24th, so October 24th to December 12th of the same year, there was a committal hearing for Milat regarding the murders, with over 200 witnesses appearing. Then the following year, in February, Milat was remanded into custody until June 1995, and then March 26, 1996 is when Milat's trial begins at the Supreme Court of New South Wales. And July 27th, 1996 is when Milat is found guilty of the murders and given a life sentence without parole. Also convicted of the attempted murder, false imprisonment, and robbery of Paul Onions.
Damn. Okay. That's good news. I'm assuming it doesn't end there.
It does for him. Like there's more that is kind of going on beyond this.
Okay.
You're also right in the fact that it doesn't end with him entirely, because he went to prison for what happened to Paul, but also for those 7 murders. However, there's a
Yeah.
lot of people who've gone missing.
There was
A lot
more.
of people have gone missing, more bodies that have been found, and
Right.
it's like, was it him? Was it not him? But there's not enough evidence, and he's never confessed to.
To those. To the. But did he confess to the
No.
7 and
Well, in Onion's
Onions?
case, yes. But in terms of the 7, no.
Okay.
Yeah, but at least not publicly.
Not publicly.
That's the key term, yeah.
To the 7, not to the after the 7.
Well, really not publicly to anything.
Okay. But privately, did he confess to the 7?
Well, we'll see.
Okay.
So
I just wanted to make the distinction. I'll bring it up why later.
okay. So then, just going into the incarceration and kind of, I guess, final years and such for him. So he begins his incarceration in the same year. He's assaulted by another inmate on his first day. The following year, he attempts to escape with a fellow inmate, George Savas. The plan fails, and Savas is found hanged the next day. He gets a transfer in the same year. Yeah.
Wait,
hmm
hanged as in like he did it to himself?
That's the way I interpreted it as well.
Okay. I was like, well, the police didn't just decide like, hey, you're going to the gallows.
Well, you don't have to send someone to the gallows to hang them.
Exactly. But I just want to, yeah, I
You
was
can
just,
do it in
was it
this.
a authority decision or was it his decision?
Oh, well, even if it was an air quotations authority decision, we would never know, probably.
But then it was like, well, was it Milat who decided that he should do this, or you know?
Oh, the hanging?
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I read it as him just doing it to himself.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Um, so transfer in the same year. Um, so he's moved to maximum security at Goulburn Correctional Center. And then in November 1997, he appeals his convictions, claiming a breach of legal representation rights
Mm-hmm.
to the New South Wales Court of Criminal Appeal, and
Mm-hmm.
they dismiss the appeal. In
Great,
2004,
wonderful.
he applies to the High Court of Australia for special leave to appeal on new grounds.
Mm-hmm.
The application is dismissed again.
What would the new grounds be? Do you know?
No, actually.
Usually, if like in an investigation, if they find new things, um, they could appeal on that. So I'm wondering if the police had found more stuff, whether that be for to help Ivan out or against Ivan. But yeah, it still leaves ground for appeal or a chance for a court to hear on those details. But
Yeah, no, it was just dismissed outright, pretty much.
great. So probably because there was nothing, I assume.
Then October 27th, 2005, you have the New South Wales Supreme Court. They refuse Milat's final avenue to for appeal here. And then in 2006, um, he does further applications for appeals that are rejected. And at this point, he is in the High Risk Management Correction Center, nicknamed Supermax, which he was actually moved in back in 2001. I should have probably put that note earlier.
Yeah, we can tell.
And into that, so so this kind of made me laugh, but I should not be laughing about this, but 2006 there was a public outcry because he received a toaster and a television in his cell.
He's not allowed to have
And
toast.
people heard about that and were livid, which, you know what,
I understand
I
that.
get,
I
I
totally get it.
100% get,
Give him
and I probably,
toast soaked in water. How about that?
no toast, no TV, no nothing. Yeah. And throughout this time, he has, denied strenuously that his family has any involvement
Mm-hmm.
to the murders. Then we get to 2009, where he amputates his little finger with a plastic knife, intending to mail it to the High Court for an appeal.
That's gonna work.
He's hospitalized but returned to the prison due to the surgery being deemed unnecessary.
Okay.
So I'm going to jump back a little bit for two specific items. One, in 2001, he had harmed himself by swallowing razor blades and other objects. This is all during incarceration. In 2005, John Marsden, who I'd mentioned before was Ivan's now former lawyer, he makes a statement on his deathbed, and he alleged that Milat had been assisted by his sister, Shirley Swire, in the murders of the two British backpackers specifically.
Oh, do we know anything about Shirley? A little bit, like background wise.
Not too much. He did live with her
Mm-hmm.
for a little bit. There was some allegation of incest in the family,
Oh, okay.
right? But that was coming from one of the brothers and was not, at least from what I'd seen, super substantiated at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And we jump forward in time. We had just talked about what happened in 2009. So we go to 2011, where he undertakes a 9-day hunger strike, losing 25 kilograms. What do you think it was for?
Appeal.
No, it was for a PlayStation.
God. How does he know about a PlayStation? Like, he's been in since what?
Sorry, he's been incarcerated since like 96. Yeah.
PlayStations didn't. I guess he could have heard about it from his TV.
Well, yeah, but also people are always getting incarcerated.
True. Somebody mentioned it
Like
to you.
if you're
He's like, I need one of those. I don't. He wouldn't. Would he know how to use it?
somebody would show him. But also a 9-day,
I wonder what games he would play.
oh, 100% Black Ops, yeah. Yeah.
Black Ops, Call of Duty.
Oh man. This
Yeah.
yeah, this is no laughing matter. He sucks. He sucks as a person. But also just that vision in my head, I'm just like,
Here's something I would say, but so when people request for things, it is often out of a necessity. So you can, so if you have dietary restrictions or religious dietary restrictions, you can request for that. And usually, if it has to do with religion or whatever, survival, you will get that.
mhm,
If is some people have certain like reactions to certain type of fabric or material, so you can request for special type of clothings and stuff like that. So yeah, when people ask for things while they're incarcerated, I think it has to be a necessity, and oftentimes while the person is incarcerated, an officer will provide you the details on what that necessity, air quotes, what necessity really means. So, yeah,
mhm.
you can. I don't think you can request for a PlayStation, to be honest. Yeah, I don't think you can. Toaster, maybe, because it's like food, and I think everybody is provided with the basic entertainment facilities, but
But
I don't know.
for a toaster though, you don't really need that to survive.
No, you could ask for like toast. Yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah.
you don't really need it, but you could request for it if you're like toast is the only thing that I want to live off of. It's something that I really like to eat. Uh, so you could request for it and maybe get it, but you don't. It's not a necessity. I would agree with that for sure.
Right, so then that brings us to May of 2019. So he's transferred to Prince of Wales Hospital and diagnosed with terminal esophageal cancer, which is
Office of a soft, never mind. I think I know what this
esophagus.
is. Yeah, but I know what you're trying to say, and I'm trying to say it
Yeah.
too. But obviously, I can't pronounce it. It's it's something with the throat, I believe. Esophagus. I could be wrong.
No, no, it is.
Yeah, okay. If esophagus.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, never mind. I won't try, but I know what it is.
Esophageal cancer. Yeah, and is later moved to the Long Bay Correctional Center.
He's been alive for too long. It's
Yeah.
2019 and it's almost COVID. Is he still alive?
No, no.
Oh, okay.
August
When did he
9th,
die?
same. Oh, yeah, we're coming up to it.
Okay.
August 9th, same year, he is moved to a secure treatment unit at the hospital due to deteriorating health. But his condition is, reported as non-life threatening. And then we come to October 27th, 2019. Milat dies from esophagus and stomach cancer at Long Bay Correctional Center
Good riddance.
at the age of 74. Yeah, right. As a final request, he writes to his family asking that the New South Wales government fund his funeral.
Of course.
The request is denied, and his body is cremated at the expense of his prison account.
100 fucking percent. Why would the government fund his funeral? Like, How delulu is this
I
guy?
don't know. He's an innocent man, Ipsa. He's innocent.
But why would the government, like, how often does the government provide funeral services for an innocent man?
Also, we're saying innocent air quotations. You can't see the sarcasm on our face.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But like, it's not him. Like, I'm saying generally, like, how often
Yeah.
does the government being like, nilly willy, we're gonna provide a funeral service for this man because he's been good all his life? Unless truly that person holds some sort of significance and has done a huge thing for that community and maybe has won prizes and stuff like that, Nobel Peace Prize and
Yeah.
all that. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, it is very rare that the government will do it unless it's like someone very important for the government, like an officer or something like that.
hmm
So who's this guy to be like, I want a government?
Well, he was asking to fund. Yeah, but for them
Yeah,
to fund it.
but why?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Why?
I
Who
do
are
not
you?
know. And so throughout this whole time between 96 and 2019, the police have been trying to get him to confess, especially towards the end. They visited him 8 times in prison and the hospital, employing as many different strategies as they could to get a confession. He didn't provide any new information. However, like I said before, he never publicly confessed, but supposedly during one of her last visits to the Supermax, and this was before she died, he did confess to his mother that he was guilty. And she had told one of his siblings, but nothing on the
Okay.
record.
So when you say that he confessed, did he confess to the, again, 7 people, or like the other people that have gone missing to the area, like both, or
To the
to the
seven.
7? Okay.
The assumption here is that he confessed, if he actually did privately, that he was confessing to the seven.
Okay.
Now, the additional victims, there's about, give or take, 20.
20. Okay.
They were all very young, within the same age range, with similar kind of, some with similar stab wounds, some who are just missing in
Mm-hmm.
the area. And the cops, I guess they strongly
Mm-hmm.
believe that he probably did kill more than 7 people. Actually, yeah, no, he definitely did kill more than those 7 people, but there just isn't the evidence necessary to tie him down to those crimes as well,
Right.
which they were trying to get and trying to get and trying to get until he passed away. So now a little chat on his early life, because I think this is the most relevant to
Mm-hmm.
a previous discussion that we had. The Are we part
Mm-hmm.
of the problem? There was one point that we were talking about how it's important to know what led a person to the point that they were at, or what kind of signs did they exhibit when they were younger, so you have something to look out for. And when I was reading through this guy's life, I was like, that, yeah, the case in point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying everybody who is like this guy does what he does, but he definitely had
Mm-hmm.
some issues that he needed some support resolving when he was a kid or something. And I'm not saying this to humanize him or anything or whatever. I'm just saying there needed to be some sort of like intervention early, I think. So now jumping into his early life and kind of what I term the whole like being protected by the devil situation, because you see it present here. So he was born December 27th,
Mm-hmm.
1944, and he was born in New South Wales. And he had a pretty troubled childhood. He was a pretty troubled kid in general, like
Mm-hmm.
constantly getting into trouble. Was into, guns, knives, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
He was in a family with like 14 siblings altogether.
Mm-hmm.
So, you kind of get lost in the noise. So, in 1957, he is sent to a residential school at 13 due to his antisocial and kind of psychopathic behavior.
What?
For example, and this is something that was given by his siblings. He would attack animals with machetes growing up.
And his parents were like, oh, he's
Uh,
just
yeah,
being a
yeah,
kid.
that's just like, okay, all right.
Such a strong man in the
He's
making.
a hunter. He's a provider. Oh gosh. Yeah. In 1961, he gets placed in juvenile detention center for theft. So this is him at 17. Okay. Here is the first instance of WTF.
Hmm.
Okay. Because in 1962, okay, there apparently was a shooting that occurred. So this is now a story being told to us by Milat's brother, Boris, and he's telling us this story in 2015. So he had entered a taxi and he'd accidentally shot the taxi driver with a rifle.
So regular. So, like, yeah, it happens all the time. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So, oh gosh, yeah, the driver's name was Neville Knight. And he had shot him during like an attempted
Hmm.
robbery, right? But it was an accident. So Knight was left paralyzed, and Milat was never caught. And not only that, an innocent man, Alan Dillon, was wrongly convicted and imprisoned for that crime. And he was in prison because he confessed to it because the police were looking at his younger brother for the crime. So he took the fall for his brother, but he was actually taking the fall for Milat.
I feel like Boris isn't telling us everything.
Personally, like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's either one or two things. It's either Boris is just flat out lying about that, but then
Hmm.
it's been years, and it's his brother's already incarcerated. Like, what would be the benefit of lying about it again? Unless it was, oh, just to get some news cycles, get some attention,
Yeah.
some extra minutes of fame, you know?
Yeah, it feels like Boris, though, was trying to gain some sort of sympathy towards Ivan just for a last attempt at the appeal. I don't know, like, if the story really worked because it's like, what the heck?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Unless Boris is trying to prove, like, oh yeah, my brother is definitely fucked in the head. Which, yeah, this kind of proves it.
This wouldn't have given Ivan any sympathy though, because it's an additional crime. It's just on the family front, just to kind of understand them a little bit. It was a very big family. They were Catholic. For all intents and purposes, it seemed like they tried to raise them well.
100%.
The dad
Yeah.
was an alcoholic. He would get into a rage whenever he drank. Yeah, and they would just get into a lot of trouble. There is, there's that. There's also the alleged incest between Milat and one of his sisters. There is also Milat sleeping with his one of his brother's wives, and then I think one of his actually two of them actually, and both times they got pissed enough to get guns and like go chasing after him, but then they just like gave up for some reason. They quit on that. And their whole, I guess, family was like very, if you go after one of them, you go after all of them kind of vibe. So still some sort of tight knitness kind of. I was like, okay. Anyways, yeah, but I don't know too much about what the other siblings did. I should look into them though, because he does have one grand nephew or great nephew, sorry, from what I was reading, who did commit a murder, or like he also killed somebody. So that's a whole case in of itself, which we can take a look at. But if this taxi driver situation is if this is true, that was like the first one of the first instances where he could have been locked up. I think that would have prevented quite a bit following.
Oh, 100%. But yeah, it just seems like the storytelling. Boris is either lying or Boris is not telling specific details
Hmm.
because I feel like yeah, there's some things that are missing in the telling of this that doesn't really go together.
In that note, yeah.
connecting.
Well, like we know about this guy Alan Dillon, like him confessing to it, and I guess also covering for his younger brother.
But why would his younger, like, unless, who's his younger brother?
I don't actually know.
Because I'm thinking, like, okay, so Ivan shoots someone and the police has a target.
Hmm.
And because they have a target, they target this younger brother who's like, okay, you know what? The younger brother did it. We can actually put him to jail. Like, forget about Ivan. They're like, he doesn't really matter. He has a theft crime as a juvenile. It doesn't really matter. We want this guy, so we're going to put the blame on
So
him.
they don't. That's the thing though. They don't know that Milet was involved at all.
So was it like maybe the brother, one of the brothers, the younger brother, the older brother, that happened to be in the taxi at the same time as Ivan? Is that the confusion? Because here's the thing, you have a taxi driver, you have a taxi, and you have three people who are no way connected to each other, and one of them says it was me because I want to save my younger brother, which is fine, but they're not connected. So unless these characters happen to be in or around the taxi at the same time, that makes more sense to me. But I feel like this is an entire case on its own.
It's possible because for whatever reason, the police were looking at Alan's brother for this. And he did think that his brother was behind it. So that's why he took the blame. He did time for 5 years.
So he took the blame. So there is a possibility that the younger brother that the police were after happened to be in the same location during the time of the shooting.
Yeah. And Ivan's the one
Okay.
who got away. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah. That makes more sense to me. Now we're connecting the dots, but yeah,
Hmm.
before it just seemed like there are three separate peoples who had no relationship with each other. One, the police is after one, but the other one takes the blame for it.
Hmm.
That's, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so then a year later from all this, he's involved in a shop break-in. He's now 19. Then a year after that, he's sentenced to 18 months for breaking and entering. A month after release, he's arrested again for driving a stolen car and sentenced to 2 years hard labor. Then, September 1967, he's sentenced to 3 years imprisonment for theft. Then, in 1971, he abducts two 18-year-old female hitchhikers. He raped one and was later charged with 1 count of rape and 2 counts of armed robbery. Okay, so 1974, he's rearrested after his mother suffered a heart attack. She suffered a heart attack, but she lived through that. The previous robbery and kidnap cases against him failed at trial. Now, that's the one that I just mentioned with the two 18-year-old girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so get this. This really annoyed me so much. So his lawyer, by some luck, came across them randomly,
Mm-hmm.
the victims in a gay bar, or I should say the alleged victims in a gay bar, the night before they were supposed to be cross-examined. He then shamed them and cast doubt on them based on their sexuality the next day. And it worked since, juries at the time were prejudiced against being gay.
Why was he there?
So he gets off again, scot-free for something that was so, like, his lawyer just randomly seeing them there, but also taking this. Oh, he's gay. He's very outright gay. Yeah, he's.
Oh, okay. But it's okay for him to be gay and not the alleged victims?
Oh no, they can be gay, but he was
A lawyer.
well, yeah, he was kind of indicating that that played into why their testimony was kind of questionable, and he was casting doubt based on that. So those are two instances when he's younger that he could have been like actually caught and doing time, but no, he just gets let out and he keeps stealing. He does a little bit of time every so often, 18 months, 2 years, a bit here, a bit there, but for the most part, he is scot-free. Which brings us to 1975. This is when he takes the job as a truck driver for the Roads and Traffic Authority. And 1977, he's about 33 years old at this point. He unsuccessfully attempted to rape and murder two women hitchhiking through Liverpool to Canberra. What he was doing over
Mm-hmm.
time looks like it was just an escalation of what else can I do? What else can I get away with? What else can give me that thrill? And then he gets to a point where now he's doing thrill kills. All of this allowed him to get to a point where he could do what he did to those seven backpackers. And it looks like after what happened with Deborah and James, he then immediately went after Paul. But because what happened with Paul failed, he waited. He waited before he got to a point where he went after Simone. And then there was a wait. And then he went after Gabor and Anya, and then he waited. But then he didn't wait that long before he went after Joanne and Caroline. And assuming that those are the only people that he killed, there were some gaps of time when he was essentially perfecting what he was doing.
I was also thinking he's a truck driver at this point, right?
Yeah.
So there is a possibility that during his waiting period, he was out somewhere else doing the same things.
Oh, yeah, because he would at times say like he would mark himself in as being at work but not be at work. Or
Yeah,
have somebody write in for him, "Hey, buddy, can you just write in that I was in working when I wasn't?"
yeah. So
So then that just and that's one of the criticisms that came up against him not being involved with some of the other murders
mhm.
because there are like alibis of him being at work. And it's like, well, we know he would sometimes lie about being at work. So why are we using that as the lie now?
Again, the thing that throws me off is like these seven
Yeah.
peoples, he kept their things as trophies. So I was gonna say we could assume that he just picked up their things because he's like, oh, I just found it on the ground and I kept them. But we have proof of weapons and all that stuff that tie him back to these seven people. But had he had killed the 20 other, about 20 other, or people in other areas, I think he still would have kept trophies, which he didn't have, or he was keeping them in a different location. I just want to say Raf's head like tilted and his eyes just opened wide.
Yeah. Yeah. I see it. Or the cops found items mixed in with the belongings of those seven that weren't actually theirs, but couldn't tell.
I'm assuming the seven people, their items were actually identified as their items because they had family or family friends to
Yeah,
being like,
yeah.
yeah, these are theirs. But had there been like hard items, and what I mean by hard is like a jacket, a water bottle, like big items that, you often carry or associate with, that somebody could have been like, that's not James or Deborah's or Joanne's or whoever, Simone's, that's someone else's. That
Hmm.
can't be theirs. So then you could have been like, okay, there's more victims tied to him because he had their items.
Yeah, but my counter to that though would be when you're doing something like backpacking or any sort of outdoorsy stuff, everyone typically purchases the same equipment, right? It wouldn't be out of the
True.
realm of possibility of like even the family seeing all their stuff and they see like a water bottle that they've never seen
Mm-hmm.
before, but then it's like, oh,
Yeah.
they're outdoorsy, they got a new water bottle. Doesn't even register that's not actually like theirs.
Yeah, true. I'm sure there had been, like, if it's a water bottle, there
Oh,
had
yeah,
been other
yeah.
testing done to
I
prove
hope
it
so.
was whose it was. But I'm not saying, like, he's innocent. I'm saying yes, but I'm saying, like, I think if he was, like, a collectors of trophies after killing someone, there would have been, like, very hard evidence. That's what I'm trying to go
There
at.
would have been,
But I'm also saying that there is a possibility that he's been hiding some of the stuff in a different location because he travels, right? For work. He's a truck driver.
yeah.
he might be traveling to a different state, so he's hiding things or committing the same crime in a different location and hiding material in another location that may not be known to his family. We don't know much about them, or the police, or his
Hmm.
coworkers.
No, no, that's true. Yeah. There's a lot more to be said about this guy that honestly we we don't have the time to cover unless we do like a second one of
Mm-hmm.
these. But because like there's an angle with his wife too.
Oh, he has a wife. Of course, he has a
Yeah,
wife.
was actually pregnant with his cousin's child when they got together. It's a very interesting family. But anyways, she sheds a little bit of light of like what it was like living with him and how it was very psychologically draining and physically draining. Like, you know, she had to be in the house all the time. Something as small as an unkept lawn that
Mm-hmm.
has like a leaf on it or something could set him off. So she talks a lot about the rage that she was subject to and she was
Mm-hmm.
experiencing, the lashing out in the house. Then one day when he was doing like an extended work
Right.
trip of some kind, that's when she bolts and he, as a response to that, torches her parents' garage.
Mm. One thing that I put down is that he was getting arrested and being let out so many times that I think he had this impression that he could get away with things, or that he can get let go after certain times, hence why he appealed so many times or had these oddball requests. I think he started to like building this sort of ego. And I guess you can see a little bit of why he was like asking for a toaster. I mean, like, the toaster thing is a little bit funny, but the PlayStation, and it's like, can you even use it? Do you know how to use it? That's a whole different story, but yeah, he was starting to get a little bit full of himself for sure
Drinking the Kool-Aid. Yeah.
towards the end.
So in the end, I'm just at a loss of words. Like, dude's life was literally the definition of being protected by the devil, getting away with things, experiencing very small like consequences until you had a lucky man, because straight up, Paul was lucky to get out of that. Yeah,
Onions.
all onions. Yeah, took a lucky man and a kind stranger to eventually start the process of taking him down, and and that streak of luck that he had. And actually, you know what? I should also rephrase it to say lucky, but also brave. Like to throw yourself back in there.
100%
Yeah.
brave, sensible, very sensible what he did. And he stood up for not only what was right, but in a way to the
Hmm.
victims, being like, you know what? Yeah, like, even if he doesn't know what he did, he stood up for them in a way.
Yeah. He was one of the ones that got away, and he came back.
I think he did survive because somewhere in the universe he was meant to help these people, if you want to put it that way.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I was also thinking about the other 20 people. Could it have been someone in his family?
Who knows? Maybe we'll uncover something people haven't thought about, but
Well, it could have been the sisters who did some of the other ones, and he doesn't know it.
who did who killed the others? Oh, like
Mm-hmm.
definitely. It could have been, yeah, it could have been his like his
Yeah,
sister helping.
yeah. Which is why I was like, do we have any more information about his family?
At least with covering up. Oh, that's what you mean. Oh. Yeah, because nobody's looking at them. Everyone's looking at Ivan, so it's like, oh. About the family. Okay, you know what? Yeah, I'll dig up some more stuff on them then. Yeah, so I guess I'll finish off by saying
Hmm.
there are some true crime documentaries, well, really two, talking about Ivan. There's one called Catching Milat, which is like 2 episodes, and that's what I'm watching right now. And then there's Ivan Milat Buried Secrets, and that's gonna be the next one I take a look at. I'm just gonna see if there's anything that I haven't covered that, would be good additional information to highlight about this whole case. Mostly, I'm looking for more details on the victims. Kind of irked me a little bit, actually, a lot, while going through this. Because if I search up the victims' names, I'm just gonna get like a bunch of like LinkedIn profiles and like some social media stuff. Okay. So then I have to be like, okay, the name and then backpack murder, or I have to put in Ivan's name. And then all of a sudden, everything that comes up is just about him. It's not really much about them.
Which speaks to like how journalists or newspapers or whoever was doing the reporting, how they'd report and show more importance to Ivan or the killer during
Mhm.
that time. Which I guess now things have changed and people actually have some reports to who the victims are. And I think it has a lot to do with social media and stuff, but
Yeah, things have changed since. Alrighty, so I guess we are at the finishing point now. Do you have any additional thoughts on anything we've talked about so far?
no, I just want to say thank you to Paul Onions for his pretty much coming, his focus and determination. Because without him, I don't think Ivan would have ever been caught.
I think they would have still looked at him, but I don't know if they could do anything before he could hide evidence.
They wouldn't have the warrant, the
Yeah,
search warrant.
yeah.
Yeah, and they got the search warrant for the house because of Paul Onions.
Hmm.
So I guess in a way he is the hero of the story.
Shout out to Paul Onions. Yeah.
Shout out to Paul Onions. That was actually really well done. Yeah, thanks to Paul Onions for doing calling in and letting the authorities know about this one weird dude that he came across. Yeah, that probably tied everything together. But well done, Raf, and thank you so much for sharing this story because I had no idea. And yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to go hiking. Hiking and hitchhiking, both are off my list, and camping or backpacking for that matter. Yeah, you're right. It's not something that I would be into at all. But yeah, I think areas where people go hiking, hitchhiking, and backpacking in areas there should be more policing in those areas for sure. I know that's not going to happen anytime soon, but who knows. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, everybody watching, listening, to everyone who's hung out with us today. It's been a long episode. But if you are listening to this, please do consider subscribing, following, and giving us a follow on Instagram. That's where we post our exhibits, maps, pictures of anything that you might need help understanding this case a little bit better. Other than that, we will see you probably next week with something very random. We don't know what it is, but yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, we will see ya next time. Bye.
Goodbye.